right, functions. Those of you that missed class today, I want to go over this problem really quick. So the one thing that we always want to start with when we're factoring is we're always going to check for a greatest common factor. So the way that I would do this, because I'm lazy and I want to do it the easiest possible way, is that I'm going to go like this. So I'm going to figure out my factors of 63 because there are less factors of 63 than there are of 112. So I have 1, 63, 2 doesn't work, 3 and 21, 4 doesn't work, 5 won't work, 6 doesn't work, and 7 and 9. And then it wraps back up. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, does 9 go into 112 evenly? Nope, it doesn't. Does 7 go into 112? Well, actually, I would start with 21. 21 does not go evenly. Then I would go to 9. So do you see that I'm going with the largest factor and working my way down? And then 7 does. So 7 times 16 is 112. And everything else is going to be, these are going to be the largest ones that are going to be common. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so now I have my greatest common factor box. Hold on. Okay, so we are going to factor out. So now we know that it's going to be 7. Oops. Oh no. Hold on. Okay, so we know it's going to be 7. Now we just have to ask ourselves, is it a positive 7 or a negative 7? And how we can tell is the leading coefficient, not the first number, but the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is the number in front of the exponent or the variable with the highest exponent. This would be technically x to the 0 power. This is x to the second power. So this is my leading coefficient, and it is negative. So I'm going to pull out a negative 7. So then we have negative 7 times a positive 16x squared gives us that, and a negative 7 times a negative 9 will give us that. So our answer is negative 7 times 16x squared minus 9. So then our next step is that we have to see if our factors factor any further. Negative 7 does not factor any further, so that's just going to stay the same, negative 7. But 16x squared minus 9 might. It's two different terms. Since it's two different terms, we just need to check, is 16 a perfect square? Yes. Is x squared a perfect square? Yes. Is 9 a perfect square? Yes. So what we're going to do, and we want to remember that a difference of squares, and I always check with a difference of squares when I have the minus sign in between. That's why we started there. Is equal to the square root of a squared plus the square root of b squared times the square root of a squared minus the square root of b squared. So that's how we're going to write it. So we are going to find the square root of 16x squared, which is equal to the square root of 16 times the square root of x squared, and we're going to find the square root of 9. Well, the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 9 is 3. One thing that you need to remember, if you're looking at variables, so if we have a variable, let's say we have x to the 12th, and we want to know if that is a perfect square, any variable with an exponent or a power that is even is a perfect square. Okay, so if we have x to the 12th, what I'm asking you is, if I give you a perfect square, and remember squares have congruent sides, that had an area of x to the 12th, what would my side lengths have to be to multiply to that? Well, that would be x to the 6th. So that's why it always works. So x to the 6 times x to the 6 does equal x to the 12th. So that's how you're going to do it. That's just a little tidbit so that way, and then also when you're factoring, you're always going to use square root or cube root. You're not going to use anything else. That's with solving, and that's a totally different strategy. But we're talking about factoring all by itself. All right, so now that I have my 4x and my 3, I can set up my parentheses. for my square. I'm going to have a plus and a minus, and I'm going to put my first term, which was 4x, and that goes in both of those. And then I'm going to put my last one, and that goes there. Then my last step is just to check. Okay, I have a plus sign here, which means I need to look for perfect cubes. Well, 4 is not a perfect cube, so that one is done. And I have a minus sign here, so I need to check for perfect squares. 4 is a perfect square, x is not, so then I am done. This is my final answer. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And I will see you all next week. Good luck on the test. Do practice.